Lots and lots of great questions. It's been around a while since I pre-announced a live. So announced it on YouTube, and we got a bunch of responses, bunch of questions that came in. Don't know if we'll get, I'm gonna have a longer live today, but I don't know if even with that, if we'll get to all of them, but we'll certainly try. So I'm gonna go to the other computer, see if I can pull up your questions over here. Awesome. Good deal. Say hello as you come in, pretty please. Let me know that you care, that you enjoy the information that I try to give you guys. Hopefully, some of the folks that ask questions will pop in. But a nice thing with this is, even if you don't make it, I'm deciding if this is when I'm going to leave up or not. Can't decide if I'm going to leave this one up because there are some pretty deep questions that I don't really go into on YouTube. We save some of this stuff for Dealmakers Institute, some of the other things for Paffy. Thanks for saying hello, Flynn. I appreciate it. Give folks a chance to pop in, hit the like button, and pretty please say hello. Flynn is from down under. Lots of crazy news right now coming from Australia, but I was just talking to a friend of mine who was singing Australia's praises, was before all of this madness, was in Sydney, and was just really upset that he can't get back right now. So yeah, I've actually, as many countries I've been to, I haven't visited Australia yet. So that's definitely on the list, especially after some of the cool things that I've heard about it. Welcome, Flynn. Montreal, what's up? Thanks for popping in, saying hello. You know, come in. It's just like you're in my home. I'm welcoming you into my South American home. So say hello as you come in. Marcus, thanks. All right, be sure to put any questions here. I may not get to the questions here. I do appreciate that you come live though, so I'll try to mix it up and answer some of these questions. If you're curious about the questions that came, you can go to the short video I did called "What Do You Want Me to Cover?" and look at those questions. And if you want to vote, you know, I'm kind of looking at a couple of them got likes from other people and replies from other people or got seconded. So obviously I'll go for those first. So if you want to copy and paste and put one here, be sure to do that as well. Lamaris, what's up? Thanks for popping in. All right, so let's get to some of these questions. So the first one comes from Professor Left. Thanks for popping in. Actually, Professor Left, I checked him out. He actually has a channel with about 1,500 folks that are subscribers. So appreciate you coming over and asking a question. So he asked, I want to know how to find deals and your origin story with all the details. I'll make it quick. I'll make it quick for sure. Because I know some of you know my origin story. You've been around for a while. You've heard me on interviews and that kind of thing. But we're always getting new people. So it's good to go back. And it's something I haven't talked about for a long time, just because we've been heavy. We've been deep, just talking strategy. We've been talking, you know, private equity stuff, crypto stuff, trading stuff. It's been a very fun year. And, you know, with the incubators, it's just been a lot of activity. So let's go back, you know, when I was in college. I was 19 years old. I'd worked during the summers, saving up. I worked at actually a camp for kids, sports camp. So one of the things that I loved was I could go to this sports camp. They fed me all summer, and it was strategic. It was like, okay, they're going to feed me, they're going to house me, and they're going to pay me. So the pay wasn't that much more than the pay I would get from a regular job, but it was a lot more hours because I was there 24/7, and they had certain ways they didn't pay for 24/7, but it was an amazing setup. Then they took care of all my expenses. And, for a college kid, that was a cool summer job. And so I was able to save up money. And that was great because it's about being prepared for opportunity. I didn't spend that money. College was, I was on the full ride. So I was definitely blessed for that. But I said, and this is, I think, one of the greatest, and I saw a post from one of my partners actually in Fiji, in the company that we're taking public. One of my partners was talking about his most important, he's a wealthy person, and he said his most important skill was learning very early to save. And so one of the things I will say about my origin story is my family will say, I've always been a saver. If my mom gave us some money to spend to buy some candy in the store, I just feel like, yeah, I'm just hold on to the money. And so when an opportunity came up that I wanted to take advantage of, which was a stock market simulator called Cool Wall Street, I was a user and a customer client of this business. I love what they were doing, but I thought it could be improved. And I just wanted to intern for this company and ended up reaching out to them to become an intern. And that's when I found out that, number one, it wasn't this big company. And this is, one of the things that people have to do is go back and think back to 1999, 2000, when the internet was just this kind of new thing. And there wasn't a lot of knowledge around how the stuff worked. And so you just assume okay, here's this software. There are all these people that are using, there's maybe 5,000 customers. And so I just assumed this was this big company. I love the product that they created. And so I reached out and I found out it was just two guys in the basement. I was like, what? This is crazy. So first of all, found that out. Second of all, found out they really just wanted to sell it. They didn't want the business anymore. And that was when, I just had that realization of oh, wow, you could buy a business. Nobody's ever told me this. Why hasn't anyone ever told me that you could go and buy a business? And that was kind of the first realization. The second realization was, okay, I wonder how much they want for this business. How much money is this business making? And with that realization, there was a thing I just really wanted to know. So I reached out to him hey, maybe I'll find somebody that wants to buy this business. Let me know the numbers and I will let you know. Hold on, let me turn. I forgot to exit out of this thing. Let me know what the numbers are. And then if I come across somebody who wants to acquire it, I can, introduce you to the buyer. And I guess them not knowing anybody, and they trusted a 19-year-old kid. And so they're like, sure. So they sent me the numbers. Business was making a little over 50,000. They wanted 70,000 for it. And I was like, okay, I have no idea what makes sense. What's the comparable of this? But I knew that the college I was going to cost 120,000 and my friends were getting out making 40,000. And so I'm like, okay, this seems like a really good deal. And even though I'd saved up money, it was nowhere near 70,000. It was like $3,000-$4,000. And so the next thing was that realization and paradigm shift of, okay, nobody told me that you could buy business. Nobody ever taught me this. And then secondly, nobody ever taught me that you could just buy income. I think and this is probably one of the things that was one of the most important, if the first thing that was the most important aspect of my origin story was understanding the importance of saving and not giving up, what I now consider your life source. Like if you're giving up your life and your life source to get money, then every time you spend that money, you're giving your life source in exchange for that thing. And so for the second realization that outside of like saving was, I can go and buy income. I could go into debt and just buy the income. And before that, everybody had told me, well, if you want income, you got to go into debt, but you got to go into debt. You got to go and exchange that debt for this degree. And then you got to go and get that degree, and you got to take that to a job and exchange that for 40 years of work. And then for those 40 years of work, you get a nest egg, which I consider a fund. I mean, this is kind of one of the big realizations later in my life, was like, everybody's trying to build a fund. Everybody on this call is trying to build a fund. You're either doing it the dumb way or the smart way. So everybody's trying to build this nest egg that one day they're going to live off of the investments of that. That is a fund. The only difference between the funds that we build and the one that most people on the live are building is that you're building your fund by exchanging 8 hours of your life every single day to get a little bit of money. And then you got to pay bills with a lot of that. And you got to take a little portion of that and you got to put that into your fund. And then one day you've got enough that it becomes a real fund. It's not a smart way to build a fund. So everybody on this call is trying to build a fund. I think that it's smarter to do it the way that we do it, as opposed to doing it the traditional way of spending 40 years to do it. But that first realization was just, that took me years and years to even realize. But the first realization was just, okay, instead of me taking out this debt to get this degree, to get this job, to one day have money, I could just get the debt to go buy the money. And I was fortunate enough that I had a mentor who flipped hospitals, who really kind of solidified how to see these things. And he talked about moving in a straight line. And, most people, like what I just described, is still what happens with most entrepreneurs. It's this thing that happens with the group. It's like, okay, I'm going to take this Facebook course so that I can, learn how to do these ads over here. And then once I do the ads, I'm going to get these customers. And then when I get these customers, I'm going to get this money. And then when I get this money, I can get more product and I can spend more ads. And then one day I can have a business. It's just like this long thing. And it's just like, one day you get to the point where you're making, $150,000 a year. And my thing is, instead of that, just go find a business that's making $150,000 a year and buy it. It's a lot. I think, that's probably the funniest thing is, I see all these people on YouTube and stuff. It's like 1,000,001 different strategies to get to 6 figures and all these things. It's like, yeah, you could do all of that. That's one option, but you could also not, and just go straight line to the goal that you're trying to achieve. All right, let's go to this because this was asked twice, or someone wanted to reiterate it. True. Okay. Well, okay, here we go. So this was the original question, and then I'll go to the other version of it that someone else asked. So this one is from True Heffy. Shout out. You've definitely been a loyal subscriber, pop in and all that. So appreciate the question. He asks, any international deal maker or investor conventions you go to, what effort do you put in regards to learning more about your craft and or new opportunities after all these years deal making? Great question. I think that's one of the most important things to do. One of the things that someone asked in a recent live was, just about my schedule and how much time I spend doing the different things and all that. And, I was explaining that my actual work hours aren't that high, but I probably spend about 30 hours a week, whether that's in just education mode, just like learning new laws and tax laws about different countries, different opportunities, even networking with people. So part of the time is just research, understand, building, one of the things I'll talk about, because I think it comes up in the question later, but one of the things, when it comes, somebody asked about legal. And when I've had for years now, one of the strategies that I wanted to use in the funds, which is a big reason that we're getting the returns that we're getting, is a specific strategy. And, I've talked to at least a dozen attorneys that all said, no, this is impossible. You can't do that. Nobody's ever done that. There's no way to do that. And I ended up building a relationship with an attorney that was like, okay, just let me research. Instead of just everybody else just flat out said, no, you can't do it. So I finally found one person like, let me research it and see if there's a way to do it. It's like, thanks. Like, I just appreciate that. And so he goes through, he does some research, like, hey, there is a way. You may have to change it just a little bit, but here's a way that you can pull this off. And that changed everything. That was maybe 2-3 years ago. And it has just exploded everything. So part of that is those kinds of things of like real on the ground networking. Now, you asked about, number one, international deals and conventions. One convention that which is really, there's just not a lot when it comes to this world. A lot of this stuff is new. We're just now becoming kind of a global economy and of being globally connected with the internet, and all of this stuff is so easy. Like I remember just buying a plane ticket for me to go from this dates me, but for me to go from Chattanooga to New York, which is where I was in school, and just to get a plane ticket, you couldn't go online. Like I had to use a travel agent. We had to call this lady to get this travel agent. She would find, like, we were poor, so she would find the best deal, like whatever she used, sometimes calling the different airlines. And I would be like, my typical route was nuts. It would be, I would have to drive. We would drive from Chattanooga to Nashville, which is 2 hours. I would fly from Nashville to Cincinnati, which is a few more hours. Then be in Cincinnati for a few hours. Then I'd go from Cincinnati to Syracuse because that was cheapest. And then it'd be a few hour ride still from there to get to my college. It was nuts. And, you had to go through this travel agency even to do that. So now you look at the way, I can literally get to multiple other countries in a shorter time than I could just travel around the US back then, especially on a broke budget. And now you can do it even if you're on a broke budget going internationally. So we're in this global economy. It's all new, but there's a big opportunity because of that. Now, one of the conventions that I recommend would be Nomad Capitalists. Nomad Capitalists has an annual event, and there are a lot of kind of international deal makers and those kind of things. So that would be really the only type of convention like that I could recommend. The other thing, though, that I most strongly recommend is just doing deals. Most of my knowledge and the learning that I get is from being in deals with people. Even the new stuff, it comes from because when you're in a deal with other people that are really deal makers. The problem with conventions and conferences and all that, I know people have been going to conferences forever. even people that I'm friends with, they've been talking about doing deals forever, and they want to go and talk to other people that want to do deals, and they want to come up with the greatest, best strategies. And, and unfortunately, I've ended up with some of those people even partner with me. It's like, oh my God, like, please don't, I just don't want to be around that energy of like, just like there's entrepreneurs, there's wantra deal makers. It just doesn't flow. It doesn't flow well. Wanna deal makers? I don't know how to put that together, but it's deal makers that ain't never gonna do nothing. It's what it comes down to. But waste a bunch of your time talking, dreaming, and they want to know like the most cutting edge strategy to never use. So it's the same thing as the entrepreneurs. So that's in everything, and you find a ton of those people at these conferences. The best way to network with deal makers is to do deals and invest in other people's deals. I invest, I talk about my funds, but I invest in a lot of other funds, even startup funds. I have a guy who just started his first fund. We've done some stuff in the past where he's just worked kind of as an agency on my deals. Like, hey, you're good at what you do. I'm going to take a roll of the dice on your fund. But then I have some more traditional funds where it's like, hey, I'm going to invest, but I'm going to build a relationship. And that's the thing, even here, I want to get kind of behind the scenes of what you're doing. So I want to invest, but I'm going to do that in real estate fund. So I will invest, but that investment opens a door to be able to network and learn a lot of things. So that's on one side. The other side is when you do deals, those people, again, just are real action takers. I think a shout out to Preston, who's the CEO of the animation company that we did a deal on in Pepe One. And, he's running this and kind of got sidetracked into the world of NFTs and DAOs and all of that. And he exposed me to it, just like literally. It was like, okay, like I needed to know someone that was in real life that I knew that was like, hey, like, yes, what you're seeing is real. And he's exploded. He's made a complete killing. But fortunately for me, I made a tiny little killing. So, but when you network, when you do deals and you partner with people, he's our partner in acquiring that business. Those are the people you want to network with. I don't want to spend a bunch of time networking with people who just want to talk about doing deals. All right. Let's go to another one. Actually, we'll check in over here. Yeah, so true. That was your question. I think you may have another one on here I'll get to. I'm trying to mix it up a little bit. Thanks for popping into the live. Oh man, DeJorian, what's going on? DeJorian was at one of the deal maker weekends back when we were in a whole nother world at that point. That was Vegas deal makers weekend. Back in the day, had a really cool house, and man, that was a great deal makers weekend. Thanks for popping in. Let's see. Got Nori says hello. This isn't my assistant Nori, by the way. This is another Nori. Saludos, ¿cómo estás? Muchas gracias por venir. Gracias. Montreal, shout out to Chattanooga. Have you ever met Terrell Owens? No, but he is a looming presence in Chattanooga. Lots of stories about Terrell. But no, I've never met him. It'd be cool to meet him for sure. All righty, let's see. It would be cool to hear where everybody's from tonight. This was a deep one because I think this gets to the real. How do you deal with the worst case scenario when a business fails and you're personally liable for the debt? So one of the things that I was faced with this when I was in a deal, and I actually had already sold the business. So I'd sold this business It was the home investor business. We done, it was a really great business. I sold it, but there was this big line of credit on the business. It was, we were buying and selling houses. Like our inventory literally was houses. We had this big line of credit. And when I sold the business, the lender was like, "Oh no, we're not letting you off of this, dog." Like, we will add this new guy, this new buyer, we'll add him in, but you're gonna be on here too. And so, I'm working with the guy, but at this point, like, that was kind of my final. I had several businesses. I'm like traveling the world at this point. But I'm working through this guy, and it was so interesting. Go back to 2008. I sold it in 2007, and then obviously 2008 happened. For you young folks, 2008 sucked. So 2008 happens, and I noticed in the numbers, because I still have access to everything. So I'm like, hey, I'm on the line for this big debt, and we could see that. First, it was like, okay, houses that we would sell in like a week, flipping a week. Now it's taking 30 days. A couple months go by, now it's 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. It was like, hey, man, this is not looking good. And it just happened so quickly that all of a sudden we were in trouble, and I was on the line for it. And probably the most important thing that I would say when you're going through that situation is communication. Communicating with lenders, investors, communicating with, because like deals are just gonna go bad. Like, you gotta accept the fact that deals are gonna go bad. Whatever you think about Donald Trump, one of the things that he's proven is that like deals going bad doesn't really change anything. You can build as long as you keep doing deals. The mistake that most poor people make is they have a deal that goes bad and then they stop doing deals. It's like, no, like, you keep going. It basically be like your dollar cost. It's really the same as dollar cost averaging. And the whole point is that if you're dollar cost averaging, in a time like 2008, that's the time to go harder. It's like, hey, let's figure out how we can get more, some different deals going, so that you're dollar cost averaging over this long period of time. The real powerful thing is that you're dollar cost averaging in a leveraged way with big numbers. So instead of dollar cost averaging with your little $1,000 a month going to save, you can dollar cost average closing a $500,000 deal a year, which basically ends up, being close to $40,000 a month. So this becomes your dollar cost averaging to build wealth. And so, that would be the first thing. The first thing I would say is like, communicate with anybody who's involved with the deal. If you're personally liable, let them know. I'm not a fan of bankruptcy because that does put you on the sidelines for a long time. And I don't want to be on the sidelines. Like, I would rather just, the credit be bad, rather, and deal with overcoming that, because it becomes very tough to overcome a bankruptcy. So even during that period, like my partner, and he may have even done personal bankruptcy, and he wasn't my partner, he was the buyer, but we were basically partners in debt. And because he did, it did, end up, honestly, I think, helping me in some ways. But I was just like, no, like, I'm just deal with whatever and not file bankruptcy. So the first part is communicating. I think that makes everybody feel better. Second part is continuing to do deals, as difficult as that is. And some of my most loyal investors are the investors where it's like, hey, we've had a deal that didn't go well. And it's like, hey, but here's why it didn't go well. Here's what's going on. And, here's what we're planning to do in the next one. It's like, okay, let's move to the next one. So it's tough sending you positive, encouraging energy. But just know that this is a Monopoly game. It's just, there's nothing to really stress about. The money, debt, all of that stuff is literally made up from other humans. that just came up with these ideas and created it, just like somebody created the Monopoly game. All right, got this question. What are your thoughts on options from Z? Option contracts versus private equity returns. It got a couple of likes, so obviously a few people were interested in me chatting on that. So I'll chat on that. Let's see. We'll get a few of you folks that are here with us tonight. RS, what do you think about Jeremy Harbor's Harbor Club? I know Jeremy, we've talked, I've never done his Harbor Club, so I'm not really sure. Man, we had an incredible time. I'm ready to get back going. I love it, man. I love it. If you're wanting to get involved, be sure to hit dealmakersinstitute.com. And that's kind of where we're doing everything now. I can't remember what it was back then, but yeah, check out dealmakersinstitute.com, man. And we have a special thing. If you were a member before, just let Curtis know you were Dealmakers Weekend attendee. Dallas representing. Marcus is over in Bakersfield, CA. We got the Netherlands. Awesome. And we got Philadelphia. Good deal. All right, so let's talk on this. Options contracts versus private equity returns. So when it comes to private equity, when it comes to options contracts, there's a lot of ways that you can use or leverage an options contract. We will use options contracts inside of our funds and inside the businesses that are inside of the fund. So you have a certain amount of money, and we've check out my negative cash video, which has some technical difficulties, but it's one of the most important lessons for the next 5 years minimum. But we're always looking for how do we leverage this cash, and one of the cool things is with selling puts or buying the stock and selling call options, covered calls, you can create income off of that cash. You can create income even if the cash is just cash by selling puts if you're willing to buy the stock, and you can create that income by selling the covered calls as well. And so that creates an additional income for your fund, increasing the returns. Again, this is one of the things that I had no idea. I wasn't doing any of these kinds of things, and so we would have, just a $10 million fund. It's like, okay, that rest of that isn't going to generate any returns, and if it's not, then when you measure the overall return at the end of the fund, it's going to look whack. But then in addition, within the businesses, all of the businesses that we acquire now, we immediately are creating a crypto account, multiple crypto accounts. We're leveraging DeFi. We're doing an NFT deal in one, which is a little bit different. I don't recommend that in most deals, but it makes sense for that deal. But the main things are DeFi. So we're earning money. We're owning crypto, but then we're lending it and earning interest on that. When you get a DeFi, you get some really crazy interest rates. But then you can also borrow back against that. And so you can get into some cool things and increase the crypto when we're in a bull market like right now. And then we also have a stock account in each of those. And I'm starting to get motivated to get more serious about YouTube. So I gotta get these affiliate accounts in this thing. So number one, y'all can win and I can win. But yeah, Interactive Broker right now, you can borrow money at 1%, guys. There's just no reason. It's just that we're really amazing. Like if you're not getting rich right now, you're going to be in trouble long term. And just know that this is the easiest time. It's just money coming from everywhere right now. So we'll leverage the option strategy with the businesses. So these businesses have capital that's just sitting there, and we want to have that negative cash strategy even with those. And so one of the ways we'll do that is with options contracts. Now, what I will say is that a lot of people will look at options contracts as the lottery of, okay, I'm going to buy this options contract, it's going to go up and I'm going to make a ton of money, and that kind of thing. And so sometimes it may be like, oh, like how does private equity compare to that? And I think while we want to use options for income, everything I want to do is income based. I want to be semi-passive, very, very passive, really, with kind of low risk bets. Because you can get such a great return, and now you've got income. When you're generating income, you can create the snowball effect that I talk about all the time on here. And that's really the goal, because that creates passive wealth building, as opposed to kind of trading and being this trader, which is more of that hustler mentality. And some of this boils down, you can't really say, oh, options contracts versus private equity, because you have to look at the goal of what that person wants. What's that person trying to achieve? For me, I'm not here to try. I don't feel like I'm put on earth to try to like play the game of die with the most money or hustle the hardest. I feel like we just have this amazing gift, and we don't really know who exactly gave it to us, but some people have beliefs like who gave it. But the one thing we can all agree on is that we have this amazing gift of life. And it's basically like, so you're walking out of your house one day and it's free. You know what I mean? It's like somebody walks up to you and they hand you a key to a Ferrari. And they're like, hey, it's yours. That's yours. And they just walk off and leave. You're like, hey, who are you? And they don't tell you, but you got this free Ferrari. And then you've got some people along the sidewalk that are playing Monopoly, and like, hey man, if you want gas for that Monopoly, you got to play this. If you want gas for that Ferrari, you got to play this Monopoly game. And that really represents like life. Like, it's like, okay, you get this amazing gift, but then you also get told, hey, if you want to do cool stuff with this amazing gift, then you've got to play this game. And just some humans made up the game. It's not like, I think we get here, the game's already here. So it feels like, it's like, oh, like this is just the way that life is. Like, no, like some humans that are just like you are like, oh, like, we're going to create this bank and we're going to create debt and we're going to get kids to take this debt and we're going to make some money and da. And so there are different kinds of people. There's, people like me, it's like, like I just want to get whatever, I want to set this game up. I'm trying to get this game to be as passive as possible so I can leave in my Ferrari, and I don't want to play with y'all forever. Like, but then you have the other people, which like the Gary V's of the world, which is like, I want to be the best at this. I want to play this game, and that these people have made up, and I'm going to hustle. I'm going to go so hard in this game that I'm going to win. So I don't know what, but I'm going to die. When I die, they're going to be like, man, that dude was so good at that game, and it's called legacy. And so I'm doing this for legacy, because when I die, they're going to say, man, that dude, like, you should have seen him. He was the hustle of the hustlers. He was out hustling everybody. He was on Instagram every morning and night. He was on TikTok, and it was so much hustle, and on YouTube. And, years from now, people are going to be like, well, what's Instagram? And what's TikTok? It's like, oh, it's these things that used to exist a long time ago, but he was the hardest core of them all. And so it's just different perspectives. And so you have the options trader that's like, yo, like I'm trying, I really want to stare at the screen all day and go super hard and, take time away from my family and take time away from things that I enjoy and love and want to do in my life, and take time from, enjoying the Ferrari, enjoying this amazing free gift that I've been given, in order to hustle and win this game. And meanwhile, the people that created the game are out with their kids on the beach, and they're calling the bank. It's like, hey, are those guys still hustling? The people in the government, like, hey, are they still hustlers that can pay this taxes? Are they still hustlers that keep paying this interest? It's like, great, let's keep them hustling, man. All right, I got some important stuff to do. Let me get back to my kids. And the hustler is like, man, traveling all over, speaking all over the world. It's like, dude, your kids are at home. Like, that's really, so to each his own. I look at those strategies where it's like, and people get so enamored. It's like, okay, like somebody's trading options and they, post like, oh, I made $100,000 today. It's like, yeah, but how many months have you been staring at a screen? You know what I mean? Like, that just does not sound like a cool life to me. So when you say options contract versus private equity, I'm not looking at life. I'm looking at lifestyle. I'm looking at freedom. I'm looking at how much can I make this passive? Because the idea of you, having this option thing that's just going to be 100% passive, and you're a trader, you're literally trading this amazing gift that you've gotten called life to look at a screen. So I'm more focused on the passive stuff. All right, we'll mix it up. That was one from over here. Let's see. Oh my goodness, look at True Heavy. Do you lend capital at 1%? Do you think I would, my heart, how could you insult my money like that, man? Do you think I would treat my money so poorly as to lend somebody my life source capital for 1%? No way, Jose. No way, Hefe. You really are True Hefe. You're trying to get my money at 1%. No, I was talking about Interactive Brokers. I want to get money all day long. I'm telling y'all to get access to that. I do not invest my money to get a 1% return. Professor Left, I've waited for this video for a year. That is awesome, man. I know I'm way overdue to really go in, stand on for an hour. Gonna get through a few more of these. And yeah, most definitely. Jarrell D. Hill, private equity funds rule the world. Literally, not even just this cool saying. It's like literally, private equity funds are just raise trillions of dollars. They own most of the businesses that you interact with, infrastructure, all of these things, and just behind the scenes, they're not. It's probably one of the toughest things about this is, even for me, I'm only going to share so much on YouTube. But the real, nobody that works at Blackstone is getting on YouTube and talking about this stuff. Nobody that works at Goldman is getting on you. It's like they're just behind the scenes. You do the deal. It's very passive. You're not trying to be this hustler, and that's just who I want to be. I don't want to be Gary Vee. That's just really what I want to be, the person that you've never heard of. And I get people even on the channel that are like, man, there should be so many more people here. It's like, yeah, it's cool that there's not. I'm gonna do a few private equity fund incubators. I'm gonna partner with a few people in Dealmakers Institute. I do these to find those talented people that I can put capital in and partner and do more deals with. I'm not dependent on working with as many people as possible. If I've got enough talented people, that's it. I don't need to have the biggest channel. I just need to have the right people. And actually, it's funny, I did the marketing thing. The marketing video, I definitely recommend checking that video out as well. But the other thing that's interesting about that for me is it's the people that end up here because they want this information are so much more valuable than me marketing and trying to convince somebody that they should be here. So yeah, that's a big deal. Joey says, bah! My thoughts exactly. 100%. 100%. All right. So this is a great question, Joshua. Joshua asked, how do I raise my first fund? I want to come to that, but I do want to give at least one more of these over here. And don't worry, if you did put your question in here, Nori took it down and it's in my list. So I'll definitely get to it later. And I'm also thinking about, let me know if y'all would be interested in me doing a Patreon or something like that where you would come priority. Because right now it's kind of a free for all, and I only have so much time. So, we got some really maybe 20 questions in just that response, which was some really, really great questions. Because like I said, my people that come here are smart, which is really valuable. But if I do that, then I can just prioritize the people that are willing to put up, 10, 20 bucks. So let me know if that is something that you guys would be interested in. Let's do this one because it ties into your question, Joshua, around raising capital. So this is from Watt Global Solutions. They ask, Ace, where do you think we are in regards to the current market cycle? Is now the best time to raise capital? What type of multiples are you currently seeing? How have current acquisition multiples changed when compared to what you've seen from this time last year? So let's take these, and then I'll kind of end this with Joshua's as well. So where do I think we are in regards to the current market cycle? Well, I think one of the things that is evident is that we're in a new world. We're just in a new world. I made the analogy of the Monopoly game. The people that created this Monopoly game have decided to just come to the Monopoly board and just dump, for the first time, trillions of dollars onto the board. And it just goes everywhere. You know what I mean? If you just imagine, it's literally what's happened. And so it's more money than we've ever seen before. And so we're just in unprecedented times. And so to say cycle means that it's time to see something like what we've seen before. But this has never been done. And it's important from a historical standpoint, number one, to know that the US dollar has only been the US dollar since the 70s. Like, this has only been a fiat currency that it is now since the 70s. Before that, it was representing gold. It was like literally just a receipt for gold. And so it became this separate thing. And then, they understood, hey, we have to be very careful about how much of this we flood, because there's no gold, there's nothing. And so this is the only thing that it is. And so we need to be very careful about printing it. But then, 10 years go by and people forget, like, hey, and so they print a little bit more, print a little bit more, print a little, and now it's unmeasurable how much bigger this printing is than anything that we've seen before. And so I don't think it's as much a cycle as it's like we need to understand the dynamics of what's happened in other economies when this much printing has happened. What happened in France when they had this much printing? What happened in Germany? When I don't think it's like Venezuela or like Zimbabwe, but France is a first world country. Germany is a first world country. What happened in those countries when they printed a lot less than what we're printing as a percentage of their GDP? And what happened is not good. Just to give you the end of the story. But so I wouldn't look at cycles. I would look at more at history, because we're in an unprecedented time, and that's not to scare you. It's just like literally just a fact. It's not a pretend thing, and it's not the end of the world. Like I said, it's not a Venezuela, it's not a Zimbabwe, but there are going to be people that definitely suffer, and there are going to be people who are massive, build massive wealth. And my hope is that even for those that aren't in PEFI, aren't in deal makers, as many of my subscribers are definitely on that wealthy side, and not on the other side of things. And it's definitely gonna get really interesting. But here's the cool part, and here's why I'm very bullish on private equity funds. One of the aspects of that, and one of the things that, again, definitely watch that negative cash video. But one of the things is that inflation is crazy. So the government says that 5% is probably higher because they never want to tell us the truth about real inflation. And so basically what's happening to everybody's money that you don't feel, I gave the example in the negative cash video. When I was a kid, we were going to the movies for $2.50. Now it's almost 10 times that. And so you can see it over time, but year to year, you don't feel it. But when you're trying to retire in 20 years and everything is 10 times, you're gonna realize, oh man, I should have been very aggressive. I should have been very aggressive about making sure that I was gonna be good. And now I'm at the end of my life and I'm broke. And so that's the downside. The upside is people have to get their money to work in as many diversified ways as possible. And so what that means is that when it comes to raising capital, to answer Watt's question and to answer, I'll get into really what I think you want to know, Joshua, like, is who cares about my first fund? It's how you're going to raise your first fund. And I'll talk about my first fund as well. I know, but these things go by so quickly. But now is one of the best times in history to raise capital. Number one, there's more capital than ever before. Number two, inflation is really high. So people understand, I gotta smart people know my money has to be put to work. And I don't want to put it to work and place my bets on just one thing. So I need to diversify. So now is the best time in history. Types of multiples we're seeing, a lot of deals we did, between PEFI and DMI, 5 deals last month, and average multiples was about 1.5, less than 2 and closer to 1, but I'll call it 1.5. Get the lights up, guys. If you're getting some value, please hit the like button. This lets other people, mainly subscribers to the channel, be sure that they get a chance to see this. And how have current acquisition multiples changed from this time last year? So there just weren't deals that were happening last year. Sellers, were kind of didn't want to sell because they were scared about what was going to happen. Buyers didn't want to buy. So there just weren't a lot of transactions. This year, transactions are definitely happening. And there's some amazing deals, especially if you're doing offline deals, some of the franchise deals I've talked about. If you're doing deals where boomers are selling, there's some amazing deals out there. So I'll end on how I raised my fund, and maybe chat on a couple of folks. Hit the like button as we wrap up. So the most important thing, and this is really what I'm doing for people that are part of the private equity fund incubator. The most important thing that you have when you are raising a fund is history. So when I raised my first fund, I didn't want to raise a fund. I didn't want a fund. I was raising capital. And one of the best ways to start a fund is just to raise capital for a deal. But I was raising capital. I was doing deals. Hey, I was happy. Like, I want to do these deals. I was kind of living my digital nomad life, and I was very satisfied. And so one of my investors came to me and basically said, listen, like, while you're doing this, you should have a fund. I'm like, why would I have a fund, man? Like, I'm good. I'm raising capital. I'm doing deals. If I raise a fund, I'm just going to raise capital and do deals. It's like, but yeah, but you're building up a track record, which allows you to raise more capital. And I'm like, okay. And it's like, and then there are these tax benefits that come along with it. I was like, oh, okay. And then if you have a fund, you end up in a situation where you're managing your money alongside of other people's money, but you increase your return on all the deals because you're able to get these management fees, profit sharing, and all that. And so eventually, as we're talking through it, I realized, and then kind of the final thing was, so why, so what's your goal? I was like, well, I'm buying and selling these businesses. I'm raising capital, and I'm buying and selling these businesses, and I'm going to have enough money one day that I've saved up that is just generating passive income, and I'm going to live off of that income. And he was like, yeah, you could do that, or you could just raise the money to go and invest now and create income and spend the same amount of time that you would overseeing your own portfolio as you would overseeing the fund. You can basically build your retired life immediately. And that transition for me was huge. And it just led to a lot of other things. And then I really, I didn't understand the game at that point. I was clueless. Nobody shares anything on this game, like the real. It's easy to talk about like, oh, here's how you, honestly, even just the facts of like, here's the legal stuff. Here's, and I didn't get to we did have a legal question, but I'm not going anywhere. I'll be back. Like I said, let me know if you guys want to do a Patreon. I did see a couple folks say, True Heifer said he'd pay for that. Jordan says he's willing to do that. So I may put together a Patreon so that, if you really are serious about doing this, you can ask some of those questions. But when I raised my first fund, it was because I'd raised 4 deals and had that track record. What we're doing now with Private Equity Fund Incubator is allowing those people to go through the process, build a track record together within a fund, and then they're able to go out and raise capital. Because that's what if somebody, even if you're investing in a mutual fund, the question is like, okay, what's the return been? What have you done? If you're just raising it off of like imagination, and then that becomes very, very different. This is everything. And I wish we were going to spend some time on this. Dumb smart person, you're a very smart person. Those are like the real questions that have to be asked. And I know sometimes you hear that, it's like, what? But they ask, what mindset hacks or mentality would you use as a deal maker? And I'll give one as we wrap up. Let's see. Currently an investment banking analyst looking to break into PE. Thoughts on what I would need to focus on. So let's talk. I think this is a good thing between those two to really wrap up on. I think that one of the things that's important to understand, and I had this conversation today with a good friend who's just asking for some advice in regards to something that she was working on. And one of the things that I think is the most important mindset hack whenever you're getting, especially into this space, is understanding that you've got a governor. It's that kind of speed. When you buy a car and it can go 160, but it's got a governor that makes it stop at 100. And all of us have little governors in different aspects of our life. And it's based on the stories and the narratives that we tell ourselves of who we are. And one of the most freeing things, because that was something that was even the case for me. I'm out here doing these deals. And, one of the deep down aspects of one of my investors coming to me and saying, hey, you should put together a fund. It's like, man, I'm not a fund manager. I don't know anything about that. Like, I can't do that. And even, I'm a confident person and all that, had a bunch of experience, but there was a little bit of that. It's like, that is a complicated world. Like, I don't know what that is. Like, I'm comfortable where I am. And that is your governor. That is your narrative that's keeping you from being able to achieve what you're really capable of. And I think one of the things that's really important, it's crucial, is that you're able to separate the stories that are in your head of who you are, the anxieties that a lot of times are a result of those stories, and the kind of emotions that come up with those stories. And these stories are not just things that are happening in the past. It's stories of projections of the future, which hasn't even happened yet. But you're literally living your life based on some ideas of of some story that you've told of what the future is, or what may happen in the future, or what you don't want to happen in the future, what you do want to happen in the future. All these things are just these little stories. But these imaginary stories become the things that control your life. And so one of the most important mindset has to, just like the foundation of everything, is being able to externalize and realize that, just like CNN or Fox has a narrative that they're preaching, your brain has a narrative that it's preaching. Your thought process is run by these narratives that you're not even conscious of. It's not the narrative that you even want. And so you can't attack it while you feel like it's still you. You can't analyze it. You can't analyze it independently while it's internal. So you have to see it just like you would CNN's narrative or Fox's narrative. It's like, hey, here's this little thing in my head, like where I've got this story about the future, or this little thing in my head where I've got a story of what the past has turned me into today, of what my limitations are because of this, and taking those stories out and really analyzing those stories and determining, is this real based on actual reality, or is this just my imagination? That, I think, is a good place to end. Hopefully, you got some value. If you're interested in Dealmakers Institute, go to dealmakersinstitute.com. Help you become a deal maker. Getting some amazing deals done right now. It's just outrageous. And Dealmakers closed 3 deals last month, closing 4 deals this month. Like, we're really action takers. This isn't for play. If you're interested in being interviewed for PEFI 5, we're going through the process of PEFI 5, and man, just been overwhelmed by the talent. Really appreciate, again, it's like, I don't need this to be a big audience. I need this to be the right audience. And so far it has been. So that's been beautiful. If you're interested in that, hit Nori at Financier Bank with a C. So you see that, Financier Bank. And just shoot her emails, let them know that you're interested, and we'll see if it's worth doing an interview. And yeah, be sure to subscribe. Share this video as well. Like, if you know other people, that's the way I want to grow. The way I want to grow is, if you know other people that are the right people, that are smart, that are going to come with smart questions, that aren't going to be, coming on here with crazy stuff. I never even have to worry about, kicking people off or just doing any of that stuff that some channels do, because we have the right people here. So if you know those folks, if you have a bunch of friends like that, share it with your friends and family. And a lot of those people can become your investors. So when they see that you're learning this stuff, they may start up a conversation, and they may not want to do it. And so sharing these videos can be a good introduction. So be sure to share, be sure to subscribe, be sure to like, and thank you so much for joining.